I don't think we have any. Rob is with us. Welcome, Rob. We have no agenda changes. Guest recognition. Roseanne, did you have anything that you would like to address the board on, or just listening? Just listening, I guess.
There, I just wanted to reply to you. You know, I'm just listening in and thanking you folks for all your efforts. I keep up with everything that I can online, but I know the kids are anxious, and you folks are doing a great job. So thank you. I'll mute myself.
Thank you for calling us kids. It makes us feel younger. Okay, moving on to items 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'll take one motion to approve those.
I'll make it.
Beth?
A second.
Second. Is that Julie?
Mm-hmm.
Julie?
Yep.
I'm trying to look down and look up at the same time. Any discussion or questions on any of those items? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed 5-0. Okay, moving on to
Rodney, can I come in for just a second on that? I just want to thank the board for that. Recommending the tenure of Mike Donlin was the first tenure recognition that I've been a part of. So I want to thank everybody for the support of that and for the team that did all the work in building towards his nomination. But I also want to thank Mike. Mike, I think, is doing a great job for us. So thank you for that. And I also just want to thank you for the support of the thoughts around the digital information and security specialist. I think I'm very excited to work with Michelle Burke in that capacity. I think we're going to be able to do some great things. So thank you for your support of that.
Yep, I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge that. There was a very good write-up in our board minutes on Mike, so appreciate the feedback from the administrators on him. So, okay.
Nice job, Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie's on here. There she is. Thank you, Jackie. All right, moving on to items for board discussion and/or adoption. The approval of the revised legal notice for the now June 9th budget vote and election. I have a motion to approve that.
I'll move.
Jim, you have a second?
I'll second.
Beth? Any discussion or questions? Or Ryan, would you like to try and explain how this came about? Or
yeah, I'll do my best. This is we're doing the best we can with the circumstance of an absentee ballot all the way through. It has been a really collaborative effort between the CSOs around the county and the county board of elections. Maya has been working the phone lines left and right, being on the line with the post office, including the Rochester area post office, because of the volume of this. It's something that the post office was not ready for. I don't think they were in the loop on what was going to happen, but it's really been quite an undertaking. We have a print ready to go with envelopes and return envelopes. We've put the brochure together and called the card, where some of the information is going to be sent out. And we are also working through finalizing our newsletter. We just have some additional budget details that need to break before we can finish the newsletter and get that in the mail as well. It has been a huge undertaking, started with the registered voters. So when you get a list of registered voters, that was over 4,900 folks from the Board of Elections. But that's not exactly what the executive order says. The executive order says those eligible to vote. So you can be eligible to vote and not be a registered voter. So we've had to go through some additional steps, including taking a look at our student information system, where 58 students are of age to vote or will be of age to vote by June 9th. And we're also continuing to try to work with Monroe County Board of Elections, because some of our school district residents actually live in Monroe County. So we have to try to get that information and make sure we get a communication to those voters as well. So we're doing the best we can to try not to miss anyone, but we're also hoping that, given the short notice of this and some of the complexity of that the idea of paying a lot of attention to detail and good faith and due diligence is going to go a long way in this particular time. So, but Maya has just been awesome in terms of trying to figure all of that out, and she has the added challenge, I think, an opportunity of being a go-to person in the region too. So she's answering a lot of questions, not just for us, but on behalf of all the district clerks as well. So, and then the last plug that I'll give there too is Laura Purcell. Laura has put in a lot of hours trying to figure all of this out and get us accurate information also. So that's the best I can do, Rodney. And what's true right now may not be true when we actually vote, but we're doing the best we can on that.
Yeah, we never know what the governor might do or change, but this, in many opinions, was probably the worst executive order ever to come through, and the worst thing that could happen to school districts and board members who are running for the board. But the governor said we had to do it, so kudos to everyone who went together. I know NISBA worked with the attorneys all over the state and came up with how to handle it. So the entire state is doing that, and Laura Purcell was obviously one of those, and has been helping our district out greatly in getting that set up. But I guess it is what it is, and we'll probably have the highest number of voting ever in the history of Avon because we have prepaid envelopes and everything else. So who knows what might happen? But anyways, does anybody other board members have any questions before we vote?
Hey, Rodney, I had just a formality question. Do we know when those ballots will be mailed out? Did you say when that'll happen? I know when they have to be returned by, but is there a date that we actually send them out from school?
Ryan, you got the date?
We're targeting getting them in the mail as soon as possible after we finalize, hopefully via the special meeting on the 18th. So we will have the proofs done and ready to go. We'll just be inserting some final numbers, and we hope to get more than 5,000 envelopes stuffed as quickly as we can and get them to the post office, hopefully by Wednesday, I would hope. Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, I don't think there was any official date when the ballots had to be mailed. And that's the other part of this whole executive order is kind of up in the air. We got to mail them out, but they definitely have to be back by the 9th at 5 o'clock. I know I was speaking with Maya. We're trying to get, I think Mike DePasquale, is checking with the governor's office on how we read those. If we can run them through a machine, do they have to be done on the 9th only? Or can they be done in advance? Because if we've got 3,000 or 4,000, and we have to wait until the 9th to run those through a machine, it's going to take and we have to have inspectors here anyways to do that. So,
and then it's also 5 propositions. So there's some confusion about whether or not we can run them the day before in terms of a scan, because previously you'd have to wait because there was a chance of duplicate elections without there being a live vote. There's the thought that there's not really a chance of a duplicate voting. So somebody won't mail an absentee ballot in, but then all of a sudden their plans change. So now they show up and vote. That's not a possibility. So we're hoping that will allow us to run some of those early, but we're trying to get some clarification on that too. And then just a quick second, if I could, I did mention we do have the 5 different propositions in our legal notice too for the overall budget, a bus purchase, a vehicle and equipment capital reserve. That's spending down one of those annual reserves that we have set aside for because of the district's planning in order to gauge and prepare for some of those expenses. And then the addition of a technology capital purchase, which is we're simply creating the fund and we will fund it with funds from existing reserves. So that's not new money. It's just allowing us to create that capital reserve for technology. And then the 5th proposition is the proposition on behalf of the Avon Free Library to levy $9,000 worth of additional taxes on their behalf from the school district. Kristen, did I misspeak on any of those or?
No, you did good.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ryan's going to be doing some speaking on the budget in a couple of our different organizations, and it's always really good to emphasize that, especially one of those propositions, we're not spending any money. We're creating it, and we're using money out of reserves and so on like that, because people get nervous when they start seeing numbers. But I'm sure he'll do a great job. All right. No one else has got any questions. So then we already have the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No one's opposed. Pass 5-0. Item B, we're going to let Ryan speak again on our COVID-19 update.
So COVID-19, we are operating from continuity of learning plans. We submitted ours, it was unsubmitted, and now we have resubmitted, and we have not heard back on that. So that's usually a good sign at that particular point in time. The governor's most recent executive order said that we're going to continue our operations up to and through the end of the school year. And so that is, we've shifted into that mode, which does have us doing some additional planning for getting teachers into the building to gather additional materials and even finalize their rooms. And then coming up with the principals are coming up with a schedule of after we can get the teachers in to try to get the students in. And we have to do this in a way that'll take a few days because we want to limit the number of folks in the building at a time. So it's awful that I think that it's awful that we're ending this way the school year, like emotionally awful. But in some ways, it has allowed us to kind of shift gears into figuring out how to end the year. I know in the report there's a couple of different pieces from Mr. Wagner about graduation, from Jen about her end of year in National Junior Honor Society, and Rob is looking at some of his annual celebrations as well. So we're doing what we can to start paying more attention to those things that we know that they're not going to happen in the usual fashion this year. So that's more or less what I have for COVID-19 at this particular time.
Anybody have any questions for Ryan on it? What we're doing?
I do.
Bob?
Do we have enough masks and hand sanitizer for the people entering and leaving the building when this all occurs?
That's a great question, Bob, and that's something that we are planning for. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to get some additional supplies in, and I know that Tom and Kristen have been working on getting the orders in, as well as Katie Conroy, who has been in communication with Tom and with Kristen about ordering supplies for healthcare as well. Kristen, are there any additional tidbits around mask and sanitizer?
We're waiting for shipments, like everybody else.
Okay, we should have went to Monroe County and taken some of their masks.
All right.
They gave away yesterday. I know at BOCES we've been getting them in piecemeal. We've ordered quite a few. We got a big box that we're going to use for students. They're kind of flimsy, but they're still they actually work good for the students, I think. But we've got a supply, I think, that's going to be able to cover just what they have at BOCES, but they should be coming in, I think. So,
Mr. George, if my mom were here, she would take away your clicker pen.
oh, I just did it again. That's a
If
good
I
mother.
was the teacher, I would do the same.
I just said chicken clucking. Okay. If there's nothing else on COVID-19, we'll move into a discussion on our tree removal. Most of you remember we had phase 1 and phase 2 of that. Remember, phase 1 didn't go really well. We actually had some taken out, but we had some issues with that. So I know Ryan and his team have come up with to me, a very great idea, but I'll let him take it from here.
Sounds good. It's really just want to get some input about what we're thinking. I'm going to share my screen if you don't mind. And I'm going to jump to a presentation. Hopefully you're seeing a creative reconstruction of a Google image. Is that what you're all seeing?
Yep.
With a yellow X.
Yep. So this area in here, if you can see my cursor moving around, this was the area, a rough outline of what was phase 1. That work was done, and there were some challenges from what I understand, and concerns of folks didn't love the fact that they were no longer shielded from the school, that you could look right across. The whole point was for safety and security so that we could see our Lake Road property, but some residents didn't like the idea that all of a sudden the sight lines were so bare, I guess would be the way to say it. And then there was also some challenges or some questions about the removal of some of the growth in the underbrush. Would that create additional runoff when you go downhill? It's hard to see some of the contours here, but basically moving downhill as you come here, and then there's a creek in this woods here. So there's actually an additional descent down to that water level. So this was the phase one of the tree removal. When we awarded the bid to Terry Trees, we awarded two phases, a phase two, which was to largely remove the trees in this area. But after hitting pause, after going through this work, we wanted to come back and have a discussion about this. This was the bid that we awarded was for $50,200 to do this removal. What we're thinking we want to do is work with the vendor to come back and modify that scope of work and have them give us a quote for what it would take to simply thin down in a healthy way this area here. So it would be removing some of the decay on the underbrush and cleaning up the floor in this wooded area, and then removing any of the dangerous branches or limbs or possible trees that could fall at some point or another, but largely leave the trees as they are and simply thin it down. But what this would mean is we would be moving away from what was awarded as the bid as the phase two and reshaping the scope of that project. So Mr. LeGroux has reached out to Terry Tree to see what we can do. And Kristen, Tom, and I have been meeting to try to gauge what the best use of those funds might be if we were to liquidate the contract and do something on a smaller scale. The last thing, while I have this image up, that I just want to point out to you is these two blue dots. These are new detention ponds that are part of the site work that's ongoing now. So these are new, and they're just off of the transportation building here. And then the brown here represents, if you haven't had a chance to be back here now, there's actually a gate across here. It's gated overnight. But if you get back in here, this is all where the site work is taking place on each side of the transportation buildings and along the parking area here at this time. So that's just a rough overview of what's happening in that area and trying to frame exactly where that location for you to picture what work might need to be done. And so with that, I'll do my best to answer any questions. But as I like to do, I'll throw it to Kristen for a second and say, did I miss anything, Kristen?
You did not.
Okay.
My only question was, does that satisfy whatever you were looking at in terms of safety and security and the original reason for the tree removals?
Yes, I think it does. I think in terms of sight lines, the sight line was to the practice facilities on Lake Road. So that's been addressed already here. Mm-hmm. And then this safety and security would be more about, I think, the existing physical safety of down branches or trees or limbs that might be unsafe. So okay. Removing those things. So I think it's more of a physical safety here, where this is more in the interest of the campus and the sight line.
Great.
But Kristen, you might have a little bit more information on that. Is that?
No, I think that's pretty good. What we're proposing to addresses the issues that we have left with that phase.
Yeah, without it being the entire removal, which I think created some flood concerns from the village a little bit farther down, and then there was also some water and DEC concerns as well. I wish I could see Bob right now, but I can't. So
yeah, Go ahead. No, I was just going to say I thought it was a good proposal, and geez, weren't we talking about this last meeting when everyone has a chance to? What was that called? Talking, and now you can't see. I'm sorry, but I think thinning those trees is so much better than removing them all, both environmentally, because it wasn't just people worried about having to look straight through or said it wasn't there. It was the washing away. Terry Tree was supposed to put back all the grass and all the sod, and that's what holds back some of the water and absorbs some of the water. So if we just thin some of those trees, you still better see through them, take care of our issue with security with kids and stuff back there, but still clean it up a little bit and actually save ourselves some money, and in a time where I think we have a use for that money. So
I know one thing I'd like to mention too. Tom Freeman had caught me quite a while ago about when we first cut the trees down. And he talked about the runoff and stuff like that. And part of the seeker would be making sure we have runoff controlled, as well, in the holding ponds, of course.
Yeah.
But anything else that may increase the water flow probably should be looked over. We're trying to stop the water from Polbridge Road down as far as we can, and it's kind of difficult when everybody's on different pages here. That's why I know Tom had some concerns about it. So if we can, I agree with the thinning down, because that's, if you cut a hedgerow out, that's certainly a bad scenario for water flowing. But that's all I have.
Okay, anybody disagree with stopping phase 2 and reevaluating it? Okay.
Bob, I'm certainly no water expert by any stretch, but I do know that a part of that site work in the parking lot, then that area that was in brown, there are some additional drains put in there, including some holding tanks that stage the water down and a slower release of the water into the ground, as well as the detention pond behind the bus garage is really a pretty substantial area. And the progress on that has been, I received a report from campus that I need to pass along to the board. The progress on that has been pretty steady, and nice new head wall, big sand bottom that'll help with the absorption too. So I don't, I'm not an expert. I'm a little out of my expertise there, but I know that some additional measures have been a part of the planning going forward.
Yeah, plus we put in retention or detention or retention up farther up above. It was on up near the 5-lot farm or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That went in a year or so ago, 2 years ago.
So I just emailed Tom LeGroux this morning to ask him the difference between a detention pond and a retention pond. And it has to do with the duration of the water. Retention is something that's more ongoing all the time. Detention is, when it's designed to slow the flow when there might be peaks of water. Because it just didn't sound right to me, so I had to know what the issue was.
Okay, if no one else has got any questions on the trees, we'll move on to the budget. And who's got that, Kristen or Ryan?
I think Ryan's going to share a screen.
I'm going to share my screen again, but Mr. Ellis, if you're in the background somewhere, I'm trying to extend my screen and it's not working well. Is there something with you recording that I can't use the regular extension, or is that probably
not to my knowledge? I don't think that it should be affecting you at all.
Well, it is.
I can come on. I can come on down. You're typical.
That's okay. That's okay. Let me see what I can do here. All right, so I'm going to go into the budget presentation, and I will. Extend. All right, so that didn't work. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Okay, so now I just should be back doing the typical regular share. Is everybody seeing the budget presentation?
No.
Well, let's try this again.
It's working now. It's going to come in. There we go.
Okay, so I will try to make my way through the presentation as best I can, and I wish I could see some feedback. So please don't, if you have a question or you want me to clarify something while I'm presenting, please just speak right up. I'm not going to be offended, because I know that's what you need to do to get in, because I can't see you right now. So just wanted to provide a brief update about the budget and where we're at. I feel really good about the budget planning we've done as a team and the conversations we've had as a Board of Education. And, of course, I need to really thank Kristen for all the work that she's done over the years to have us in the shape that we're in, but also helping me to transition into this role, because I have a lot of questions, and she's very generous with her time to help me with that. But in looking at our most recent strategic plan, we have, I'm trying to boil this down, but we had some focus areas as they related to being fiscally responsible and healthy, we wanted to be proactive with the maintenance of our facilities. Our budget that we're bringing together does that. We want our spending to be guided by mission and vision, feel very good about that. We'll feel even better when we can start moving a little bit more towards long-term planning that we talked about at the last meeting. And we wanted a budget plan that maintains the long-term health of Avon. So, not only weathering the storm right now, but also continuing to look at being fiscally healthy for years to come, trying to pay attention to trends and do some long-term planning for the financial side as well, smart use of reserves as best we can. So at our last board meeting, we talked about some budget values or good practices. We talked about the budget needing to respond to need. We wanted our resources aligned to goals. We want to focus on student learning, maximizing the impact of student learning and minimizing the impact of any potential cuts or efficiencies on student learning as well. We want to be forward thinking. We sometimes it's very difficult to continue to have, as a district, to have the courage to do what we need to do, not just now, but for the future of our students and for their future. So we want to be forward thinking, and we want our process to value community support and the input that they've had to date. So again, I feel really good about the work we've been doing as a team we were in very good place prior to all of this happening. And then since, I think we've been able to have some really open, honest conversations about where we want to go and what we want to do. Just as a very brief look at where we're at year to year in terms of state aid and increases and decreases, tax levy, other revenue sources. The top of this graph showing the revenues, so the incoming funds, where they're coming from and what they mean. This decrease, Kristen, I'm going to ask you to briefly explain. I panicked when I first saw this as like, why are we losing state aid? But it actually has to do with, I think, expense-based aids and building aids, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Kristen?
Yeah, $87,000 of that I reduced because we don't think we'll be able to have the capital outlay for this year completed in time. I have to get the final cost reports done by June 30th, and with the change orders, I don't think that's feasible. So that building aid will be put off to the following year. So I figured we should make it right now that we know it won't go through.
So planning for the worst case scenario there. Okay. And then when we look at tax levy, we've had discussions as a board of what our allowable levy is, up to 3.79 this year. We've also talked about paying attention to where the region is going and paying attention to the impact of COVID-19. So this is an unsettled part of our budget, and it's hard to settle any of these things until we know a little bit more about the executive cost containment measures, which we're supposed to get more information about on the 15th. That's that look back into the state revenue streams. And if they're not at a certain level of revenue coming into the state, the governor and the budget director can withhold some of our promised state aid. So this amount of state aid is actually a best case scenario. It is very likely to be lower than that. So this is a look year to year. This is a look at salaries year to year and employee benefits as you make your way down. This was a similar table to something that John had prepared for you last year. So an overall increase year to year of 0.67 in the budget. Kristen, do you want to add anything to this overview to bring it off the page a little?
No, that debt service has gone down just because that's how our payments are scheduled. So our building aid has also gone down accordingly. It's pretty much matched.
Okay. Do any board members have a question? Okay.
Nope.
Budget highlights have been, like I said, the planning that we are doing, we feel really good about where we're trying to head with the Ed Law 2D information and privacy. That was the position that was voted on earlier today in the board meeting with Michelle Burke, starting as the digital information and security specialist position that combines the service that we had from BOCES with anticipated spending that we would have to do to comply with the mandate from the state. And we're actually coming in at a cost neutral based on those two factors there. So we feel really good about that. Through Kristen as well as Jackie have been doing some great work in terms of RFP processes that are yielding some efficiencies for us. The budget will give us a chance to expand our career education program as we continue to try to work through the counseling program to make sure that those opportunities are getting to all students. It helps us to preserve, or it will preserve, unique programs that are things that have been set in place over the last couple of years in Avon. We're trying to connect our resources to our initiatives. We are addressing our lifeguard minimum wage, which has been largely flat for about 3 years, Kristen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're also creatively leveraging grants to help with the impact to the general fund. So those are some overall highlights that we're still able to do, even though we're in a little bit of an economic challenge right now. There are 5 propositions, as I mentioned. There's the overall budget, there's the bus purchase, the vehicle and equipment purchases, and I will highlight again that those are the result of long-term planning that the district's been doing. So smartly accessing some of the reserve funds to do some of the purchasing and spending down reserves, as opposed to having things impact the general fund. And then we're going to hopefully vote to establish a reserve for technology purchases, and we'll fund that through existing reserve funds. And then the proposition on behalf of the Avon Free Library, an increase of $9,000 up to $110,000. That is a vote that takes place, a proposition that takes place through the school, but it's actually for the Avon Free Library. The next steps, as we are continuing on the process, we should know Friday the impact of that first executive cost containment. We're going to take a look at what that means to us, and then we will look to very quickly finalize, and present a budget recommendation to the Board of Education on the 18th. Hopefully we'll adopt a budget then. We will finalize and send the cards, the newsletter, and the ballots, more than 5,000 envelopes, and to be stuffed and prepared and mailed. And then we'll move into what I call the education phase of the budget, where I'll be presenting to community organizations, conducting the budget hearing, and then conducting multiple presentations to faculty and staff. With the budget vote the budget vote and Board of Education vote happening exclusively through an absentee ballot process on the 9th this year. So with that, that's a current snapshot of where we are. We hope to 1 week from now know exactly how we're going to plan to move forward in terms of a budget that we'll be ready to recommend and hopefully adopt at next week's meeting. So what questions can we answer for you?
Anybody got a question?
I don't have a question, but I do want to say thank you to everybody that's been involved with us, because it's beyond anything we've ever seen before, and it's just so nice that we're able to do all this with what we've seen so far. Let's hope we can continue with more money, Kristen, but that's okay, So anyways, thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Hearing nothing, seeing no lips moving. Well, wait a minute, Jen's laughing. Okay. Okay, if no one else has got any questions on the budget, then we'll move on to reports. President's report. I don't know if I have anything. Everyone's seen Bob Snyder's NISBA notification that came out yesterday.
Yes.
I don't know. Everyone should have had that. We all felt, and he felt compelled to send that out for some reason. Some areas in Area 2, at least, Area 2, if not over the state, have the sense that NISBA is the one that proposed the absentee ballots to the governor, and he accepted it. And it is far from the truth as you can imagine. But somehow that's out there, and it has caused some districts to question whether or not to stay with NISBA or leave because they thought that NISBA did that. But if you read his note, and I know Pat sent it out, the exact same note. He just forwarded it out to everyone else too. Hopefully that explained what NISBA's position was and has been ever since we started. So if you had any questions on that, you can get to me, but I have to answer some from Monroe County because they're the ones that originally we found this out on Saturday and tried to nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. I don't know where it came from. But anyways, that's the reason for the note and why it came out so quickly. So okay, moving on to legislative, Julie?
Am I unmuted? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay. We're going to do a year-end Genesee Valley School Board meeting via Zoom, kind of like this in June. And then the same with Upstate Institute, just to wrap up because our new year begins in June. So I can pass those reports on once we've had those meetings. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to administrators' reports. Everyone's seen the new and improved reports, which I think are great. Does anybody have any questions on any of the reports that came out?
I appreciate the links that Jen put in. They worked. I was able to get right to those Google links, so I appreciated that.
But they were
Julie, you look like, no?
It's got to be hard. I know at the high school level, just prepare, especially with the seniors. So we wish those decisions and leadership in the coming week or two, Ryan.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But a lot of good ideas and a lot of involvement by staff and the community, and just good support in place right now. So,
Julie,
Yeah,
you look like you want to say something.
Believe it or not,
What
I know everybody's shocked.
was the expression on your face? I thought you had something to say.
Just
Yeah.
great reports. And, I think it's great that they're doing temperature checks on the students. I know Thomas received, questionnaire asking how he's doing. And I think that's, it's good to keep that, a hand on that pulse because this has been challenging for the students. And I know when we get back to school sometime, it's going to be pretty exciting for everybody. So, but the reports were great. And thank you so much.
welcome.
Hey, Rodney, if I may, just one, probably the question that I'm getting the most in hearing is really about graduation. Yeah, so that's, and that's not a surprise to us, but that's whenever I see people or if there's any communication, like, what are we doing about graduation? And so I just tell them that there's good ideas out there. And I know Ryan and Ryan are working hard on that and, to come up with some kind of plan. But I do tell them that something will happen to honor our graduates, and they're still figuring out the logistics. So we appreciate your efforts to figure it out.
Yeah, so
We're going to do the best thing we're allowed to do.
Right. Exactly.
That's really well said. There's lots of great ideas, but what we'll be allowed to do is really kind of the challenge. So, but I really appreciate the time and energy that Ryan and his team are putting into planning for our seniors in these really strange circumstances. I think the thing that makes it harder to plan, but in a good way, is unless something's changed. When Ryan and I did our focus groups with seniors, they were pretty clear about wanting something that resembled a traditional graduation ceremony. So we're doing our best to try to honor what we can with the input that they've given us. But they were pretty universal in their thoughts around that.
I just had one thing. Do you think we could get both fire departments to put their names and on their boards out in the front of the units there? Like we could do the same thing at our school too, but for the graduating seniors, just list them as, as a, alphabetically, whatever you want to do.
You
Yep.
mean on an electronic board?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
we could, CVS probably might, but the 2 fire departments and of course our 2 boards too would be an idea.
It's a good idea, Bob. Ryan, why don't you and I kick that around a little bit, along with a couple of the other ideas that we chatted about over the weekend?
Yeah.
I know I hear Avon graduates on the radio channel every morning. They not every day, but they go around all over Livingston County and the city, and they list the seniors. And every once in a while, you hear Avon, 1 or 2 seniors out of Avon at Tony and D 101. They list seniors every morning around 7:30. They have a list and they just announce their names, and so.
Nice.
Ryan Wagner, have you heard back yet from the drive-in? Are you anticipating something soon on that?
I am anticipating something soon. Governor Cuomo came out with an order today that May 15th they're going to open up low-risk businesses. So the drive-ins were listed on there. So I'm hoping to hear something pretty soon to see if we can do. I know we want to do the senior awards presentation and the senior slideshow there for sure. But it could also be a good backup for graduation if we're not able to do a traditional ceremony. So
yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking we'll hear yes or no pretty soon.
The reason I ask, and maybe that one hasn't been inundated like the Silver Lake one out by Perry.
Yeah.
Because I know that they've got like 9 different schools that are doing their graduation that way. So having one a little closer to home benefits everybody.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Paul Dean is the owner of that.
Charcoal Corral.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Paul
Avon.
Dean's the owner of the Avon, yeah, and he owns the Elmwood Inn too, on 15 and Elmwood Avenue. He's the restaurant owner there, and he owns the drive-in and the flea market. So
nice.
So maybe we can. I don't know who your contact is, but if it's not him, maybe we can figure out how we can get in contact with him if you're.
Yeah.
That's
So. Ryan and I will keep working on the ideas that, we've got a couple of different ones that we're kind of waiting. We've got some good starts and we're waiting to see which one's going to see the most doable, and we're going to go down that path. Planning 1 graduation is hard. Planning 3 is really hard. So
the other thing going for us is, school is probably going to end earlier than the 26th. So we might have a couple different weekends to work with if in fact we're outside or something. So weather-wise or something, we might be able to work around them. I have rain dates if we need them, but I'm sure whatever they come up with, the seniors and the parents will be surprised and enjoy what it is. So
Right.
Yeah.
Good luck.
We'll keep you informed.
Okay.
all right. Any of the administrators have any additions to their reports or anything else they'd like to talk about? Does any board members have any questions for any of the administrators other than what the reports?
All good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie, I wish you well, Jackie, in terms of what your typical summer looks like and making those, different arrangements. So keep breathing, hang in there.
Yeah.
It's a minute by minute exploration. So
I think we're supposed to hear at the end of the month whether or not where summer school is going to stand, or I don't think he's made a decision on that, has he? Or we heard anything more, Ryan?
No decision officially on summer school. I know that a couple of different summer opportunities. There's the true summer school, there's summer enrichment, there's extended school year, and they're all being impacted right now. So we're trying to work our way through. It looks like there's a commitment to try to do some form of extended school year, but what exactly that looks like, we're not sure. And we've been talking as an admin team about, is it even feasible to try to plan to do a traditional summer school, or should we be looking to be a little bit more creative with some of the credit recovery options that might be available?
At this point, we're taking some leads actually from our preschool providers and agencies who have really pretty deeply started engaging in teletherapy for some of our preschool. I've been chairing those meetings, and so we'll be taking a little bit of a closer look to see, excuse me, on what that might entail. They're using a program called WebEx that I wanted to talk to Jim Ellis about a little bit because it is interactive and allows the provider to actually be working in the same screen that the student's working in. So every day we just kind of get some new ideas as to how we can be creative, especially for our students who are recommending extended school year for. So we'll keep you updated.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, Ryan, did you have anything additional?
Just late breaking at the end of last week, there's some dual participation in high school athletics as a conversation that's been allowed around the state. It's the idea of a student being able to be on two sport teams in the two teams within the same season. It was recently approved at Section 5 level. Now each of the athletics association is conducting discussions about what it might look like. So don't have any more concrete information about that, but just something, it'll be a future policy discussion we'll have to take a look at.
Okay.
Kristen, did you have anything else on the business office budget or?
Well, nothing new to add, at least right now.
Okay. Okay, if no one else has anything else, we'll go to the round table. Beth?
No, again, just as we've said in the past, very appreciative of everybody's commitment and efforts, things like that. I'm just trying to take advantage of different things that NYSBA has. So I signed up. There's a webinar tomorrow in regards to these uncertain times and leading with emotional intelligence. Mark Levy. It was actually one of the presenters I saw at the convention in October. So nope, just again, kudos to everybody.
Beth, we can compare notes. I'm registered for that one also. I just saw Mark Beckton was one of the subject of an interview with Brene Brown's podcast. And,
yeah.
Had a new book in the field. It was really, really pretty powerful presentation, I think.
Yeah, he did a great job in October. So be interesting to see anything new. So that's it for me.
Okay. Julie.
Beth, I'm with you. I'm going to join that webinar tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I'll be in that as well. So that's pretty much all I have, but thanks for all the work.
Jim?
My only question was whether anyone was going to attend the webinar tomorrow, but no, I know. I think 4 might be too many, or I don't think you need me to join, but I may be in there as well. Looks like a good hour well spent at noon to 1, right? So I don't know.
Scott Lee, Mark Brackett,
Bob?
Scott.
I'm all set.
I will bring this up and see if someone wants to, one of the board members would like to do this. Normally, quarterly, we have roundtable. I'm not sure, down in NYSBA, and I think Julie, you may have attended once, or Beth, you attend once. You drove to Albany with the commissioner was there, along with the Board of Regents. Usually, it's a roundtable. We're going to have another one on, I believe it's June 4th, via Zoom or whatever. I'm allowed, as the Area 2 director, to have only one. Normally it's 2. I'm allowed to have one. That if someone would like to sit on that, it'll be with I said the commissioner and Rosa, the Regents chancellor. If someone would like to do that, I can submit your name.
We will rock, paper, scissors,
but
you guys want to draw straws?
No,
we can rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I know that you have some additional connections with some of your upstate, and so nope, you're great, and you take great notes, Julie. So
I'll share.
Julie, you want me to submit your name, Julie? And if I can get a second one because someone turned it down, I will throw you in, Beth.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll get the information from Mary Matheny. She'll send it to you and how to zoom in and so on. But
Thank
okay.
you. Yep.
All right. I got to remember to do it though. You better text me in the morning and tell me.
Okay. I will.
All right. All our future meetings, we have the special meeting on the 18th, and that is to hopefully adopt the budget. I think
What
we have
time?
to. 4 o'clock.
Okay.
I think we have to adopt the budget. Am I correct, Kristen? For date, time-wise?
Mhm.
On the 18th, we have to adopt it. Okay.
Yeah.
And our next meeting is the 5/27. That will be 4 o'clock also, and the hearing will start at 5 because we still have to have a public hearing via Zoom. So, yeah, the regular meeting, and then we'll have the hearing. We'll open the hearing up and we'll let Ryan do his 3.5-hour presentation, and then we'll close it down. Right, Kristen?
Right.
Okay. That leads us into our last guest recognition. Roseanne is still on there. If you have any comments, Roseanne, you're more than welcome. Or Jim?
There. Am I now mute? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. A couple of things. Thanks to everyone for all the work you're doing on this. It's fantastic. As a tree lover and a memory of the 2015 floods, I'm glad to hear about the thinning phases on the back of the area. Also, the students seem to miss having all the trees there, so that I think they'll be pleased to hear that as well. Secondly, as you work on the phases of coming back and the students and all that sort of thing, might I just ask that if there's information on how to and processes and all that, that whatever the current roster of substitutes would be, that there be some way that we might keep up with what's going on, if I'm on the list or not. Just because coming in after school starts is too late to understand how we're doing new things with the new things that COVID has brought for us. And then thirdly would be graduation plans. I meet students here and there and they say, are you still coming? Well, I've always been shy at coming because I'm not a parent. I'm a resident of the area. They'll say, won't you come to my graduation? All that. I know this year those things won't be possible. But if you can somehow promulgate what is going on to other than the parent and the students, to the community, I guess, then I can think about whether I stand in the street and wave or I get a flag that says congratulations, or how I can support our students and what I might be able to do from a distance just to say, you did well. Thanks, kids. You know? That's all.
Thanks, Roseanne. The idea of broadcasting or streaming the ceremony in some way, shape, or form is definitely something that's on our radar. We didn't talk about it earlier, but thank you for making sure we're thinking about it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
And I'll bow out. Thank you for letting me listen. Bye-bye, folks.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Mm-hmm.
Jim? You're good? Okay. We do need to go into executive session. So I will entertain a motion. Everyone remember how we're going to do this now. You're going to log out of this and go on to Ryan's. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Someone want to make it?
I'll make it.
Is that Beth?
Yep.
I'll second.
Bob? All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We're in executive session, so I'll meet you on the other side.